Utang? Utang? Utang.
Alam mo ba na dahil sa pandemya na ito ay lumubo ang utang ng ating bansa at umaabot na ngayon ng 9.6 trillion pesos. Kung hahatiin ito sa populasyon ng Pilipinas na umaabot na ngayon sa 107 million, ang bawat isang populasyon o bawat isa sa atin ay may utang na 90,000 pesos o sa 70,000 piso. Kung ikaw ay tatanungin, ano ang magiging saloobin mo tungkol sa 90,000 pesos na utang mo at ano ang gagawin mo tungkol dito? Halika, kunan natin ang momento o reaksyon ng 5 sa ating mga kababayan ukol sa issue na ating napag-usapan. Yan, ito tayo sa mayor's office.
Ako, bilang Pilipino, ay hindi nag-alala kung ako ay may utang na 90,000 pesos. Kasi, yung inutang ng pamahalaan natin, ay nakikita ko naman kung saan punta eh. Yan, yung mga proyekto na nadadaanan na natin. O, tapos, ginamit nga para matulungan ang mga tao. Hindi naman binaliwala lang yung utang na yun eh. Sa kagaya ko, kung ako ang may pera na 90,000, ay gagamitin ko talaga yun sa matulong sa mga nangangailangan. Sa mga kakulangan namin dito sa aming bayan na mapapakinabangan ng tao. Okay naman yung mag-utang ang gobyerno. Kasi kung hindi naman utang, paano natin mapapaganda ang ating bansa? Paano magkakaroon ito ng improvement o development? Ay yung development na yun eh, laking tulong sa tao. Kaya, okay lang na may utang tayo. Tayo naman eh, babayad din naman tayo din eh, o babayaran din naman natin yun eh. Walang problema. Okay lang sa akin kung may utang ban ako na 90,000.
Kung ako may 90,000, ang gagawin ko sa 90,000 ay ibili ko ng isang motor. Motor na may kakayahang maghanap buhay. Tulad dito sa Banton, panghakot ng baybay. At kung mga ano pa dyan, dahil yung asawa ko isang driver. At para kami mabuhay, dapat may sarili kaming motor.
Ano ba yung 90,000 na loan mo? Naibibili ko ng labak. Hanap buhay. Tapos ibibili ko ng labak. Tapos ihahanap ko ng loan. Ng labak.
Kung ito ay pautang, napakalaking halaga na naman ito. Kung ito ibabayaran ko, hindi ko ito pwedeng bayaran sa loob ng mga 10 years bago na mahirapan ako. So kung pwede lang siguro ito sa mga gustong mag-avail, pwede lang siguro ito dun sa mga may trabaho, pero kung ibibigay ito sa bawat isa, parang hindi dapat kasi yung iba naman hindi nakapag-aral sa atin, hindi nababudget yung pera, limbawa sa ating mga IPs. So parang sa isang saglit lang baka mawala agad yung pera, lalo na ngayon kung lahat ay bibigyan. Siguro isang taon na yung mga farmers ay hindi man sila magsasaka. Yung mga mangingisda, bakit hindi na sa mangingisda? Kasi may pera na. Kaya dapat lang siguro ay doon lang sa mga gusto, yung mga nakapag-aral, para magamit lang sa tama yung pera.
Kung may mga taong gusto o pabor sa utang, meron din namang mga tao na ayaw sa utang. Bakit kaya?
Ito po yung aking masasabi. Pag halimbawa ang Pilipinas ay umutang ulit, saka ibabahagi sa lahat ng Pilipino. So iniisip ko kasi napakahirap magkautang eh. Naranasan ko kasi magkautang, napakahirap makapagbayad eh. Pero kung yun talaga ay nakadivide sa lahat ng mamayang Pilipino, so mabuti pa siyang tanggapin ko na lang. And then, ibabalik ulit para at least ay masabi ko na wala na akong utang sa Pilipinas. Kasi napakahirap lang magbayad ng isang pagkakautang eh. Bakit hindi ko nabayaran yun? Baka posibleng umabot pa sa aking mga anak, sa aking mga kaapu-apuhan. Kaya mas mabuti pa siguro sa aking pag-analisa. Isasali ko na lang sa Pilipinas yung perang para sa akin. So,
Okay nga lang ba na umutang ang ating bansang Pilipinas? Okay, let's watch this.
Lumulobo po ang utang ng Pilipinas. By the end of January of this year, umabot ito sa 7.76 trillion. Kung ikukumpara yan doon sa simula ng administration ni President Duterte, it was around at 5 trillion. Ano? Some say that yung utang is inevitable. Pero Richard, ano tingin mo dito sa trend na ito?
Well, Atom, first of all, there's some good news naman. One of the good news is for the very first time, magiging contributor tayo dun sa Asian Development Fund, sa may Asian Development Bank, no? This is the first time we're doing that. That means that yung overall economic and fiscal conditions natin ay nag-improve as we become an upper middle income country, no? So nagiging net lender tayo. The second thing is, pagdating sa debt, especially foreign debt, ang issue dito is always not the volume per se, pero yung sustainability base doon sa pag-grow ng country mo at paano mo ginagamit yung new debt into investing in terms of your capacity, no? Kasi kung yung inutang mo, nilagay mo naman sa productivity ng bansa mo at nag-expand lalo yung economy mo, you'll be able to pay back that debt. So huwag tayong magpanic. And the other thing also is this administration has also inherited a lot of debt, including all the way from the Marcos time. So it's not like the Duterte administration came in with a clean slate. Nonetheless, Atom, one of the things that we have to look at is this, yung nag-increase ng foreign debt natin by around 33.51 billion pesos. The spending of this government is a little bit getting out of control, habang the two previous administrations were spending a lot. The other thing is, we know that there's more and more money coming in terms of infrastructure development fund, especially from China, no? Hindi pa ganun kalaki, but I think the concern here is that yung money na pumapasok dito, what are the transparency or accountability measures to ensure that sustainable ito at nilalagay ito sa tamang investments, no? Is this odious debt? Is this a debt that is productive, or is this a debt that goes to corruption and non-productive investments? So quality, no, of those debts and investments is also very much important here. Last April, sinabi ni Pangulong Duterte na wala na siyang pera and we're desperate to raise funds. He called on Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez to raise whatever money he can para labanan itong problema ng COVID-19 virus and to shore up our hemorrhaging economy in the midst of one of the longest-running lockdowns in the world. In his emotional speech in April, sinabi ni Pangulong Duterte, I'm calling on the Secretary of Finance to generate funds. Magnakaw ka, manghirap ka, wala akong pakialam, produce mo yung pera. Now, over the following weeks, that's exactly what the Philippine government has been doing. Kaya sinasabi ng mga critics, baka the way out of the crisis for the Duterte administration is utang, utang, utang. And what will be the implication of that for the Philippine economy for generations to come? Most recently po, pinahiram tayo ng multilateral agencies, especially yung Asian Development Bank led by Japan and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank led by China. Pinahiram din tayo ng $500 million ng World Bank, which is based in the United States. Now, the government has been raising up to $2.25 billion, no? Malaking pera yan, for the so-called CARES program. Ito yung COVID-19 Active Response and Expenditure Support Program. Now, dapat medyo may pera actually yung ating gobyerno. By mid-May pa lang ay nakapag-raise ng $5 billion ang ating gobyerno. And in the coming weeks and months, we're hoping to raise more than $8 billion or lampas sa 400 billion pesos. Now, this is to help yung mga communities na may pangangailangan. This is also to help yung Department of Health dun sa kanilang public health policy expenditures. Pero yung isa pang gustong gagawin ng administration is a build strategy. A lot of infrastructure projects to generate funds, to generate growth. So may utang, pero may build din. Nonetheless, many are worried na baka sumobrang itong pangungutang ng ating gobyerno. Last year, Vice President Leni Robredo was already asking the government to explain a significant spike in our debt, which is already breaching 7 trillion pesos. In particular, the Vice President raised concern over the Chinese infrastructure projects in the Philippines, which have been accused of having very high interest rates at hindi masyadong transparent. Now, clearly, the debt issue is increasingly become political. May mga propaganda efforts also to besmirch different administration. Now, earlier this year, may mga kumakalat ng fake news na sinisisi ang supposedly Aquino administration for bringing a lot of debt to the country. Ayon sa mga propaganda na yan, Duterte administration and Arroyo administration actually had very minimal contribution to our debt. Karamihan ng ating utang ay galing sa Aquino administration. But the more accurate measurement, yung net addition, ano yung nadagdag na utang ng bawat administration by the end of their term after paying back the debt from the past, and at the same time, ano yung mga dagdag na loan na nakuha nila. If you look at the net addition, actually the Aquino administration had very modest addition or relatively modest addition to our national debt. Based on calculation by economists, by the end of Aquino's term, yung ating utang ay nag-increase to almost 6 trillion pesos, 5.948 trillion pesos. Pero yung nadagdag lang ng Aquino administration was around 1.36 trillion pesos. Within the first 3 years of President Duterte, in fact, by January 2019, President Duterte made a similar amount of net increase in our debt. That was larger than the entire additional debt that the Aquino administration added in 6 years in office. And that debt is expected to even increase further in the coming months and years as the Duterte administration tries to fight back against an economic recession. Nonetheless, many experts will tell you that huwag tayo masyado mag-alala. After all, it's one thing to have more and more debt, pero kung lumalaki din yung economy mo and your ability to pay back is strong, then dapat hindi tayo mag-alala masyado. Not to mention, yung debt na ini-incur natin, we can invest in productive capacities. So over time, pwede natin mabawi kung anong nautang natin, plus new productivity and new growth. And let's not forget, a lot of this debt is actually also domestic debt, not necessary to foreign lenders. Debt crisis usually happens when you have a lot of debt to foreign investors and capitalists. And this was particularly the case during the Marcos dictatorship, kung saan by early 1980s actually bumaksak yung economy natin because we couldn't pay a lot of debt that we owed to our foreign lenders. Kaya whether utang or build ang response ng Duterte administration to the ongoing crisis in the country, the key there is sustainability. And sustainability means that even though nakapag-utang ka ng marami, you can create even more growth para mabayaran mo yung utang, and at the same time you create additional growth and jobs for the country. And that way, we can get out of the crisis and once again become a rising tiger in Asia.
So, hati ang opinion natin sa issue na ito. May mga tao na gusto ang 90,000 na utang dahil may gusto silang bilhin sa kanilang livelihood, sa kanilang negosyo, para sa development ng ating pamayanan. At may mga tao din naman na ayaw sa utang dahil ayaw nila na magkaroon ng isipin. Ayaw nila na may iniisip sila na babayaran. Sa akin, okay lang naman na umutang. Basta kaya nating magbayad. Dito po nagtatapos ang aming making video. Maraming salamat!